Welcome back, my temporally challenged commuters, to the Multiverse Employee Handbook, the only podcast that treats rush hour like a cosmic joke, because in the grand scheme of things, it is. I'm your host, and today we're tackling the mind-bending, space-warping topic of interdimensional commuting. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty of wormhole lane changes and relativistic road rage, let me regale you with a cautionary tale. Gather round, dear listeners, for the parable of the punctual paradox, also known as the wormhole warrior. In a universe not so different from our own, well, actually infinitely different, but let's not get bogged down in multiverse semantics, there lived an employee named Kronos Zeppelin. Kronos was the kind of person who considered being on time as fashionably late. His motto? If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you might as well apply for a job in another dimension. One fateful morning, after hitting the snooze button on his quantum alarm clock one too many times, each snooze sending him to an alternate reality where he was always 5 minutes late, Kronos decided he'd had enough. Time waits for no man, he declared to his reflection, which nodded sagely before realizing it was supposed to be mimicking him. But who says I have to wait for time? With the reckless abandon of someone who'd had one too many interdimensional espressos, Kronos decided to create his own wormhole to work. After all, how hard could it be? He'd seen it done in countless sci-fi movies, and if there's one thing we know about Hollywood, it's that it always portrays science accurately. Armed with nothing but a physics textbook he'd skimmed during his lunch break and a can-do attitude that would make a motivational poster cringe, Kronos set to work. He calculated the space-time coordinates of his office, factored in the curvature of space caused by his boss's massive ego, and with a flourish that would make any mad scientist proud, he opened a swirling vortex in the fabric of reality. Eureka! Kronos shouted, before remembering that eureka moments were so 3rd century BCE. I mean, cowabunga! He adjusted his tie, took a deep breath, and stepped into the wormhole. Now, dear listeners, if you've ever had the displeasure of using public transportation, you know that sometimes the journey doesn't quite go as planned. Well, interdimensional travel is like that, but with more Lovecraftian horrors and fewer excuses about leaves on the line. Kronos emerged from the wormhole, triumphant and more than a little nauseous, only to find himself face-to-face with himself. But not just any version of himself. Oh no, that would be too simple for our intrepid commuter. He found himself face-to-face with himself as the CEO of the company. You see, in his haste to beat the interdimensional traffic, Kronos had not only arrived at work before he'd left home, but had also fast-tracked his entire career. He was simultaneously the eager employee rushing to make it to his cubicle on time, and the big boss wondering why he had the sudden urge to fire himself for tardiness. As Kronos stood there, locked in a staring contest with his past and future self, he realized the true meaning of work-life balance. It's not about managing your time, but about managing your place in the space-time continuum. The moral of the story, my dear interdimensional interlopers? Sometimes the scenic route through space-time is the safest bet. Sure, you might have to deal with some temporal traffic, but it's better than becoming your own micromanaging boss, or worse, your own sycophantic employee. And so, as we close the quantum file on the wormhole warrior, remember, in the race against time, sometimes it's okay to be fashionably late. After all, in an infinite multiverse, you're always on time somewhere. Now let's take a brief pause to contemplate the existential implications of rush hour in a universe where time is relative. When we return, wormhole etiquette and traffic laws. Stay tuned and remember, keep Keep your hands, feet, and extraneous appendages inside the time stream at all times. Welcome back, my interdimensional road warriors. I'm your host, and we're continuing our crash course in interdimensional commuting. Don't worry, when I say crash, I'm speaking metaphorically, usually. Now let's dive into the swirling vortex of wormhole etiquette and traffic laws. Buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be a bumpy ride through space-time. First things first. The do's and don'ts of wormhole navigation. Do remember that wormholes, first theorized by Ludwig Flamm back in 1916, are not your personal interdimensional shortcuts. I'm looking at you, Chrono Zeppelin wannabes. Don't try to squeeze past a black hole to shave a few light years off your commute. Remember, if you can read the objects in mirror are closer than they appear sign, you're already too close to the event horizon.
Oh, really?
Now, let's talk about understanding interdimensional right-of-way. It's simple, really. Just follow the golden rule as proposed by Nathan Rosen and Albert Einstein in their 1935 paper on Einstein-Rosen bridges. He who warps space-time first has the right of way. But remember, just because you can create a tunnel through the fabric of reality doesn't mean you should. My friends, this is basic wormhole courtesy. Moving on to avoiding temporal fender benders. Look, we've all been there. You're cruising along the cosmic highway, adjusting your rear-view mirror to check your hair in the past when suddenly, wham, you've rear-ended yourself from next Tuesday. Classic rookie mistake. To avoid these chronological collisions, always remember the sage advice of Stephen Hawking. In his 1992 paper on the chronology protection conjecture, he essentially said, the universe doesn't like time machines. Think of it as the ultimate cosmic traffic law. But what if you do end up in a temporal fender bender? Well, first, exchange insurance information with yourself. Then call your interdimensional claims adjuster. And whatever you do, don't admit fault. You don't want to be held responsible for violating the grandfather paradox, first described by René Barjavel in 1943. Trust me, the paperwork is a nightmare. Ah, the grandfather paradox, the temporal tangle that's been giving aspiring time travelers and philosophers migraines since good old Barjavel first penned it. Picture this. You're a disgruntled time traveler with a bone to pick with your grandfather. Maybe he forgot your birthday, or perhaps he had the audacity to wear socks with Crocs. Whatever the reason, you decide to hop into your DeLorean and zip back to before your parents were born to, shall we say, prematurely end Grandpa's timeline. But wait, if you succeed in your temporal temper tantrum, you've just erased your own existence faster than you can say, Great Scott. No, you means no parents, which means no grandpa terminating time traveler. But if there's no you to go back in time, then Gramps lives, you're born, and... oh, sweet Einstein's mustache. We're right back where we started. It's enough to make you wonder if free will is just a cosmic joke played by a universe with a twisted sense of humor. Are we all just actors in a predetermined play? Or can we really change the past without causing a temporal traffic jam? Some scientists like Igor Dmitrievich Novikov tried to smooth out this wrinkle in time with his self-consistency principle in the 1980s. He essentially said what happened, happened. No takesies backsies in the space-time continuum. Others like David Deutsch suggested in 1991 that we might just be hopping between parallel universes every time we try to off our ancestors. So, the next time you're tempted to take a time machine to your family reunion, remember, messing with your timeline is like trying to fold a Mobius strip. confusing, potentially impossible, and likely to leave you right back where you started, with a headache to boot. Now, where were we? Oh yes, let's discuss the importance of cosmic turn signals. You might think, hey, I'm traversing the multiverse. Who needs to indicate? Well, let me tell you a little story about a guy named Dave. Dave thought he was too cool for cosmic turn signals. One day, he decided to make a sharp left turn into a parallel universe without indicating. Next thing he knows, he's caused a 37-dimensional pileup, and the quantum police are writing him up for reckless endangerment of Schrodinger's entire cat family. Don't be like Dave. Remember, proper signaling isn't just about safety, it's about interdimensional diplomacy. You never know when you might cut off a Vogon constructor fleet. And trust me, you do not want to be on the receiving end of their poetry as road rage payback. Lastly, let's touch on the sticky subject of speed limits. Yes, I know what you're thinking. But Einstein said nothing can go faster than the speed of light. Well, guess what, smarty pants? Miguel Alcubierre came along in 1994 with his paper on warp drive and showed us that while you can't go faster than light through space, you can move space itself faster than light. It's like the cosmic equivalent of I'm not touching you to the universe. Just remember, with great power comes great responsibility, and potentially great speeding tickets. And there you have it, folks, your crash course in wormhole etiquette and traffic laws. Remember, in the vast cosmic highway of the multiverse, we're all just trying to get to work on time. So let's be courteous interdimensional commuters, shall we? When we return, time dilation and your morning routine. Ever wondered how to look fresh after near light speed travel? Stick around and we'll share the secret that cosmic beauticians don't want you to know. Rise and shine, my chronologically confused comrades. Welcome back to the Multiverse Employee Handbook. I'm your paradoxical host, and in this segment, we're tackling the mind-bending challenge of managing your morning routine when every tick of the clock could be a lifetime in another reference frame. Strap in, because we're about to make Einstein's hair look positively tamed in comparison. First up, calculating the perfect departure time when every second could be a century. You thought hitting snooze was complicated before? Ha! Welcome to the world of relativistic alarm clocks, where 5 more minutes could mean missing the heat death of the universe. Let's start with a little history lesson. Back in 1905, a patent clerk named Albert Einstein dropped a temporal bomb on the scientific community with his special theory of relativity. Suddenly, time wasn't just ticking along at a steady pace. It was stretching and shrinking like a cosmic rubber band. Fast forward to 1971, and we've got Joseph Haffel and Richard Keating flying atomic clocks around the world, proving that yes, your watch really does run slower when you're rushing to make that 9 a.m. meeting. So, how do you set your alarm when time is relative? Simple. Just solve for x in the following equation. 1 moment. I can never find any chalk around here. Oh, wait. Here it is. Where first t is the time you need to wake up, and the second t is when you need to be at work, v is your commute velocity, and c is the speed of light. Easy peasy, right? And if you believe that, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. It's only slightly warped by gravitational time dilation. Moving on to our next morning conundrum, dealing with relativistic bedhead. Ever wondered why Einstein's hair always looked like he'd stuck his finger in a quantum socket? 2 words, near light speed travel. When you're zooming through space at velocities approaching c, your hair doesn't just get messed up, it gets messed up in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But fear not, my follically challenged friends. I present to you the Lawrence hair transformation. Simply apply your favorite styling product, then contract your hair length by a factor of 1 minus v squared divided by c squared. Voila! You'll arrive at work looking like you've just stepped out of a 5-dimensional salon. Now let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the wormhole in the bathroom. The ethics of using time dilation to extend your coffee break. We've all been tempted, haven't we? Just a quick jaunt near a black hole, and suddenly your 15-minute break lasts longer than some civilizations. But before you fire up that Alcubierre drive, consider this. While you're sipping your latte for what feels like eons, your co-workers are picking up your slack in the blink of an eye. And let me tell you, nothing breeds resentment quite like interdimensional time theft. Just ask Roger Penrose. He's been calculating the entropy of office grudges since 1965, and let me tell you, it's not pretty. Lastly, let's tackle the age-old excuse that's about to get a lot more complicated. Sorry I'm late, boss. Traffic was murder. In a universe where you can literally take the long way round through a higher dimension, this excuse just doesn't cut the quantum mustard anymore. So, how do you explain to your boss why you're simultaneously early and late? Simple. Just draw them a quick Minkowski diagram, throw in a few world lines, and casually mention that according to the Novikov self-consistency principle, your tardiness was a predetermined event, necessary for the cohesion of the space-time continuum. If that doesn't work, try the classic. A wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. It worked for Gandalf, and let's face it, in a multidimensional workplace, we're all a bit of a wizard. And there you have it, folks, your guide to navigating the treacherous waters of time dilation in your morning routine. Remember, in a universe where time is relative, punctuality is less about when you arrive and more about convincing everyone else that they're the ones who got the schedule wrong. Stay tuned for our next segment, where we'll dive into the art of quantum water cooler talk. How do you discuss your weekend when you've lived through multiple timelines? Stick around to find out. Welcome back, my probabilistic palaverers, to the segment that's got everyone talking and not talking simultaneously. I'm your ethereal host, and it's time for everyone's favorite feature, Quantum Cooler Talk. Now, gather around the interdimensional water cooler as we dive into the choppy waters of quantum socializing. First up, how to discuss your weekend when you've lived through multiple timelines. Picture this. It's Monday morning, in this particular brain at least, and your colleague asks, "How was your weekend?" Simple question, right? Ha! In a quantum workplace, that's like asking Schrodinger's cat to fill out a satisfaction survey. Did you go skydiving or stay and binge-watching The Real Housewives of Andromeda? The answer, my friends, is yes. Thanks to Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation proposed back in 1957, every possible outcome of your weekend has occurred in some branch of the universal wave function. So, how do you respond? Easy. Just apply the superposition principle to your small talk. Try something like, "My weekend was simultaneously exhilarating and relaxing, productive and lazy, until you observed me this morning and collapsed my weekend wave function into this sleep-deprived state you see before you." But wait, there's more. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the temporally displaced mammoth in the room. Avoiding spoilers for colleagues who haven't experienced next Tuesday yet. Remember, in a quantum workplace, some of your co-workers might be temporally out of sync. That colleague asking about your weekend? they might be from next Thursday. So before you start gushing about the surprise party they're going to throw you on Wednesday, take a page from David Deutsch's book on quantum time travel and zip it. A good rule of thumb. If they look confused when you mention the alien invasion that's supposed to happen on Tuesday, they're probably from your temporal past. Smile, nod, and stick to discussing last weekend. Or better yet, ask them about their weekend. It's in your past, so you're safe from paradoxes. Now, let's delve into the true art of quantum small talk, simultaneously engaging and disengaging from conversations. This, my dear listeners, is where it gets really fun. Thanks to the principle of quantum entanglement, first described by Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen in 1935, though they weren't too happy about it, you can be in multiple conversational states at once. It's like being at a party where you're simultaneously the life of it and the wallflower checking your watch. Here's how it works. Initiate a conversation with a colleague, then immediately create a superposition of engagement states. You're now actively listening and completely zoned out, asking insightful questions and planning your lunch, laughing at their jokes and wondering if you left the interdimensional oven on. The key is to maintain this superposition until someone observes your conversational state, collapsing it into a single outcome. With practice, you'll be able to navigate an entire office party without ever fully committing to a single interaction. It's not antisocial, it's quantum etiquette. As we wrap up today's episode on Interdimensional Commuting 101, remember, in a quantum workplace, every interaction is an opportunity to explore the fundamental nature of reality or to hide in the supply closet, or both. It's really up to you and every other version of you across the multiverse. Before we go, let's take a quick peek at what's coming up in our next episode. Get ready for Dress for Success, Multidimensional Edition. We'll be exploring the challenges of choosing an outfit when you exist in multiple states simultaneously, why Klein bottles are the new power suits, the do's and don'ts of non-Euclidean fashion, and our special feature, Schrodinger's tie, to clip on or not to clip on. Until then, this is your host reminding you. In the quantum workplace, you're not just climbing the corporate ladder. You're ascending a probability matrix of career superpositions. Make every state count.
Hey, this is Dave from Toronto, Canada. The Multiverse Employee Handbook was created by Rob Corrigan, is edited by Matt Parkman, and narrated by David from 11 Labs. All science fact-checking is done by Mohinder Suresh. The Employee Handbook staff includes Claire Bennett, Hiro Nakamura, and Ellie Bishop. Please be sure to subscribe to get updates on new episodes.